Bam, there we are. I'm using a different microphone, so let me know if it sounds kind of funny. Okay. So welcome guys from all over. And we start like we've done the last 3 or 4 of these. And what's in the drawers? What is in the drawers, you say? Well, I went in, we were doing a lot of cleaning. I did the carpet cleaning because Ohio is going to allow us to open around the 12th, so we had to make sure everything was clean. So that's what we've been doing. However, this is the topic of the day, and it seems to be going with Scrunchy Chingo. I'm talking about all chefs and whatnot. Look at here. An original Project X, original rifle Project X. And I tell you how you know is because of basically that banner right there, that tape around there. And this was a 6-iron and a 5.0. And back in the day, a 5.0 was a stiff. Now, the big thing you want to look at is you see that it's not the shiny. I'm trying to get it out of the light. If you look right about here, that's what it really looks like right there. So that was it was a find. I found a few of them. It was probably part of a demo pack that I had, and I've got a bunch of 6-irons, and I just have a different varieties of flexes. The other thing that I found, if you guys remember the purple and gold shafts, well, I found it's basically its little brother. And you know what? The funny part is I use these as my driver shaft link fitting shafts. And I would just happen to I have like 2 or 3 of these things. And they're in the S Flex. So, and they're really nice shafts. They've not seen the light of day. So it's pretty cool. Now, as we talk shafts, I've also, I think I told you guys last time, but I became a dealer for VA Composites, and I tried the Nemesis, and I like the Nemesis because I took a chance at the Nemesis because the Nemesis was a counterbalance shaft. Now, I went and tried it now as I was doing some testing, right? And let's see, get back to it. Here we go. And that's basically what my profile looked like going through it right there. So it was pretty impressive. It's done me right so far, so I'm happy with that. So that's been a real plus. Now the other thing is that we've last one I asked you guys what would be cool to have a logoed item, and everybody liked that. And it comes with a little bitty a magnetic ball thing, and it's on both sides. And so they come in multiple colors and stuff. So we're between that one and the towel. So we're waiting to get answers back from some of the vendors, and we'll probably go with either one of those. All right. So there was in Lie. So now I said talking about golf setup, the golf setup. Today I was able to talk to South Africa and Flight Scope because I was having a bit of an issue with ball spin with wedges, and after it turned out that I had my mat too far away from the landing area, the back end of the net, and too close to the Flight Scope, so I just moved it forward a little bit and changed one setting, and next thing you know, there I am. Also did find out that the Flight Scope did not like the Wilson range ball. It can't see through it. So for any of those military people out there, it's something that's not radar penetrating, whatever would stop that. So maybe there's lead in it. Who knows? So we kind of found something. So getting even more dialed in this thing, and as I'm told from the top operator of the guy that works with the Flight Scope, is that the way I have it set up is more accurate than if it was even out of doors. But it works on a different method. It's not the same method, so it's pretty cool. All right. So let's do some questions and answers. We got this one. I know it's relatively common to have heavier shaft in a 3-wood versus your driver. Is it common to have a heavier shaft in the 5-wood versus 3-wood? The answer is no. Normally it goes in classifications. And so the driver, fairway woods, hybrids, all those are in those classifications. So you would have about the same one. And the reason being is because it's in the same profile class. It's like making an iron. So if you had a fairway wood shaft, right, a fairway wood shaft like an iron shaft, and you were just trimming it to fit in the separate irons, the same thing would occur in the fairway wood. So if you had 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, you could go in that and just keep trimming more in order to get where you needed to be. All right. Went a little too far. Here we go. I have a set of irons I like from 2004 with carbon shafts. Would there be any benefit to reshaft them with a newer carbon shaft? Well, we're talking 16 years, and shafts do wear out if you've been playing them or having them under stress. And it's been 16 years, so something has probably changed in your game in 16 years. And so, yeah, right, if you like what there are. Now, keep in mind that the shafts won't be as modern. So if you're looking to keep up with your buddies and hit that 7-iron, however far that you hit it when you were 16 years younger, that chances are that's not going to happen because that's swing speed related. Now, if we could get the quality hit way up there and stuff, you might gain some back. However, that's, you want to, so it depends on why you want to reshaft. If you're reshafting to upgrade, then the answer is yes. They do have some better shafts from 16 years ago. Quality has gone up, all kinds of stuff. But if you're looking to have it do something like give you 15 more yards or something like that, no, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, and I've done that for people. The Ping I2s come to mind. They really dig. The Ping I2 is a great iron. And it's very close to modern lofts, and people just like the way they look. And we go from the heavy steel shafts into something a little more modern, even in graphite. And that way it doesn't, and just a better feel, better performance too. Quality hit goes way up. All right. Look at that. All right. Kurt, I was wondering what you were going to think about that thing. So I reshafted it was a Callaway, and we put he was asking about a shaft, and we talked about the Acra FX Blue, and turns out he had something like that in his fairway wood. So going up into it was in that family of shafts that we've always talked about was never really a problem, and so that worked out really well. Then it was modern paint job versus old paint job, and I had one of each. And it turns out he had an older paint job, so we were able to match it up. So really good. Kurt, well done, man. Thanks. Hey, there you go. Well, if you want to go there, I believe that they even have hybrids in that level, so we should be good to go. Rob, how's it going, man? How'd that last project go? And it's been going pretty good. It actually got into the mid-60s. We got some mowing done. Unfortunately, tomorrow and the next day, it's going to be back into the 50s with some rain. So it is what it is. Thankfully, my hitting area is inside. All right. Grip Garage, you did? How'd you like that one? Was that a good one or what? All right. Dustin, big fan. Thank you. And have a question. Can you do a video on balancing putters? Never understood that. What kind of balancing are you talking about, Dustin? Let me know, because I am really digging putters right now with the Capto unit and the way that a lot of the newer putters, the Stroke Lab and the way the new Odysseys are working, and we're finding out that we can marry up a lot of that stuff. It's not too bad at all. So let me know about balancing, what you mean by that, because there's face balancing, balancing of the putter, the way it feels, all kinds of different stuff. And we can talk about putters for certain. There's a couple of really good putter guys out there that I could probably get on the channel as a talk to. Matt, so how many rounds in the 70s did we shoot today or shoot this week? Let me know. Nolan, it depends on it really depends on your game. The overall most common shaft that I see that's been working here, I've been using a lot of the blue. Now, there's orange and red and blue and silver. And I believe the silver might be the weakest of the clan, where red and blue are in the middle and the orange is at the top. So the red and the blue are pretty much the two go-to types for right down the middle stuff, right? If you're a very aggressive guy, I would really start looking at the orange. We say, John. Oop. Man, this thing just keeps going. Gordon, thanks a bunch. Here I'm waiting on my Mevo Plus and waiting for them to reopen. Environment is so important to those units. I'm waiting for the Mevo Plus and was waiting for them to reopen. Environment is so important with those units. Yeah, to a point. It's supposed to be an outdoor thing, and of course you can't get it too cold and you can't get it extraordinarily hot. So one of those like Arizona 140-degree days is probably not going to work, or a up the UP up in Michigan is not going to be in the middle of winter. It's not going to work, but in between, I don't think it has an operating temperature any different than mine. In fact, it should be a little bit more stout since it's made to really be outside. But and mine goes down into the 30s and as high as into the 120s. So it's got a really wide range, and they are very stout. Fact is, you just heard me say I was talking to them, and apparently they have had a huge run on these. And I met their vice president in charge of manufacturing this last time. Super nice guy, and he was telling me all about the ins and outs of making it. And I guess he's under the gun because there's been quite the demand. So great, that's the way to go. All right, Antonio, how you doing, bud? Are you playing any good? The reason why I put this one on here is I just did, so I had just reshafted a 4-iron. I'm looking at it, a Titleist, one of the kind of hybridish Titleist for another 13-year-old, and he's a lefty, and his dad is a pro down at one of the local courses. Apparently, this guy's got game, and he's number 2 in the state in his age category. He's shooting some game, and he's playing from the blues at the course his dad just went to. And I asked him what he shot in the last 2 rounds. I think he said 78, 76. So he's no joke. He's going to take some people's money. Chamster, yes, they are very good. They're unfortunately golf balls are basically gauged in popularity. Okay, the Pro V now, and the popularity is based, a lot of what you see on performance. But the Titleist, let's go start with the Pro V. The Pro V is number 1 across the board, and a lot of pros use it, right? And they got the Pro V, the Pro V1, Pro V1X. Now, the pros use it, well, mostly because every pro's they're given any golf ball that they desire, but they trust the Pro V. Now, and it's a performing golf ball. There's no doubt about it. However, the real key is, much like anything else, is it a golf ball for you? And it can be. And when we talk about it here, when we talk about this, and people in business, when they give out like Christmas gifts or whatever, they say, hey, look, the Bridgestone RX might be what's good for you the best. And they hand you a Prox Pro Vs. You don't go, sorry, brother, that's not my golf ball. You go and you say, I use this. You say, no, hey, thanks. That's a great golf ball. And you run and you put it on your arm and you run away with it because it's a good golf ball. Now, oh, sorry. Some people have, it's bang for buck kind of thing for me. And if that's the one that works the best, then that's the one that works the best. But to keep back on track, yes, Bridgestone balls are good. I prefer in that category. Their number one, it would be my opinion, is the E series. All right, the B series is okay. The RX is very nice, but the E series is their bread and butter ball, and it's because it works. And so there you go. I use a 33-inch putter. I tend to get over the ball, but 33-inch putter. Funny part is I just did one. I made a 31-inch putter, a fitting for a guy that I couldn't get him to not crouch, and 31. So there it is. What's the best-selling economic golf grip? Do you have a grip a little off the mainstream that does well? Well, my best-selling grip is actually the Golf Pride. And you see these blue ones back here and the red ones over there? Those are the ones that go for me. They're the ones that are probably the biggest. And it has to do more with their shape and their texture than anything else. The MCC4 Plus is another one that goes out there. Another surprise really for us has been Jumbo Max. They're not exactly economic, but they're a heck of a grip. And the other one is that we've sold in the past. Is Pure. We've sold them in the past. If you're truly banging for bucking kind of thing, a lot of people don't know them. I would say Star, right? Star. They work quite a bit, but those are the ones that I'm familiar with. I'm sure there's others out there, but those are the ones. I use the stuff that comes from GolfWorks, Nolan. I use the stuff that comes from GolfWorks, and now there's been some guys that have emailed me and said that they've had problems with it, and that it doesn't bind, it doesn't stick, or something. It just doesn't do something for them. I really have not had that issue. Now, I keep mine in a very temperate climate. I don't go from garage to out. I keep it in the same, and it's in a 70-ish degree environment all the time. Now, there is stuff called 3M. I think it's 810 DP, which is a more of a preferred stuff by a lot of the people, including those on tour. There's a fast cure and what I would call a medium cure. The fast cure goes in about 5 minutes, 15 tops, and the other one is 15 and goes to about 30. And everybody raves about that. Unfortunately, it's about 4 times the cost. And I just can't. If I was to start having failures, I'd be on it in a minute. But I haven't, so I don't need to. In fact, I've got 3 different kinds. Again, I'm looking at it. I have 3 different kinds of the GolfWorks. I've got the 24-hour cure, I've got the 30-minute cure, and I got a 10-minute cure. And they each have their place. And so that's what I've got. All right. Range reviews. How would one find club fitters in my area? Now that is a really good question. So there are 2 sites. The one I would recommend first is the International Club Makers Guild. The International Club Makers Guild, and it is a group that, well, I helped start, and they're very, very strong. And if you go to the ICG, if you just type in International Club Fitters or Club Makers Guild, you'll find it, and they have a map of members and then certified members. Get a certified one. Now there's another one that's the AGCP, of which I was a member in the early days. I haven't been for many years, and they are golf business owners as well. And there are some guys, and they're in levels, and the higher the level, the more experience and the more that they do. So either one of those would be fine. All right. Can I cut a 4-iron shaft to a sandwich length in the sandwich head? Well, it would depend. There's the answer for most golf questions. If it is a parallel tip, yes, you should be able to. All right. And then what you would do is, and if it's a 4-iron, it's already probably been trimmed maybe a half of an inch. If it is a if it is a taper tip and you're putting it into a taper tip head, the answer is no, because you have too much tip space, right? There's too much tip. You need, because the difference between a 4 and a sand wedge is going to be what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pitch. Yep. So somewhere in between 3.5 and 4 inches that you're going to need to tip trim. And then and then all of a sudden it's a parallel tip shaft going into a taper tipped head. So it's probably better off not to if it's taper tip. If it's parallel, then yeah, just be careful that you don't trim too much off and then all of a sudden it's too short. So you want to take care of that. All right. Ooh, that's a good one. What custom club head coating, the Cerakotes or the gun coats, do you feel is the best for the coloring of clubs? Well, again, it depends. If you're so here's the thing with coatings. Whatever coating you put on it is particularly on irons, that's coming off. All right. That's the nature of a coating. It can only take so much abuse. So if you're making these things from a decorative point of view and to make them display pieces, what I've done in the past is I've removed all the coatings, all the chroming and all that stuff. I just ground it off, say for instance in a putter. Clean that all off, and then I've gun blued it. And gun blue is not necessarily blue, it's black. And then once you stop the process, it takes the finish of however you had it finished. Meaning if you had it glossy, it stays glossy. If you had it satin, it would be satin. And then you stop it, by quenching it, and then uh, cover it in maybe a coat of wax, or paint it up, do whatever you want, put in a coat of wax, and you're done. Now, if it sees moisture, or whatever, it's going to rust because it's basically naked. Now, if you're looking for uh, like a driver or something along that lines, there are some kits out there that are made for that. And if you look up painting a golf club, there's a guy who did a white one, turned out pretty good, and it was specifically, I think it was specifically made, and it comes in a one club kit. So I would try that. All right, look at that. It's going to be Christmas in Robtown, right? Get all that equipment delivered. Dude, that's going to be awesome. We need to see pictures. All right. We need some pictures on how that shop's going to set up. Hopefully you got at least a really a good layout for yourself. Workflow is, it's good to have good equipment, but it's just as important to have good workflow. Okay. Well, yes, I will do something so balance in general. There's a lot that goes into that, and much like different swingers, there are of the irons and drivers. There's different putters, right? You've seen significantly different grips when you see it on tour. From you see this, you see this, you see this, you see this. The gator grip, where they gator grip it. And then how they stand. Oh, there's arm locks. I mean, then everybody's been very, very successful for that. So you have to kind of marry up to what you like. Now, what I will share with you guys here, I have found that when I watch a guy putt, if we're doing a full fitting, I watch a guy putt, that that I can tell how he's going to hit his irons by how he putts. When they have the outside in swings, the way that they hold the putter, there's a huge similarity between the two, right? There's a huge similarity between the two. So we need to keep that in mind. So if you're struggling with one or the other, it's probably happening in both. All righty. Toulon versus Scotty, the overall deal, right? So, again, now I deal with Callaway, so my answer is definitely going to be skewed. All right. As far as feel goes, and if you're into the soft feel category, I have to give the nod to Scotty. Okay, I just have to give the nod to Scotty. as far as innovative, trying new things, trying to get the balance, those kinds of things, that goes to Toulon hands down. So there's two different things. Now, the processes of how they make their putters are totally different too. So that's where the feel comes in. Now, in talking to Mr. Toulon, and I've had an opportunity at least 3 or 4 times now. Uh, he has these experimentations with sound, and sound's important. The feel comes in there right behind it, but there's all these other things that just go into play, other than just one item, and he puts them all together. It's not to say that Scotty's not doing that either. I'm just really, really, really familiar with Toulon, and so he has a plethora of styles, and much like when they give everybody says that, hey, they're copying the answer because Ping made the answer. Well, everybody's got an answer, right? And they always many people in the past have accused Scotty of being, they called him Xerox basically because he never had an original design. Well, out comes the Futura. So now he's got one, right? Well, Toulon's one of the designers for the Spider, so he's got one as well. So all that in, so, but more things going on in a putter goes to Toulon. Establishment, that kind of stuff, that goes to Scotty. What do you think of the swing and putter grips that are weighted from Boscheri? They're not bad. They're a little, yeah, they're a little awkward in the fact that they're really long. But the idea of back weighting has been around since, well, probably the 60s and 70s, and we've been doing it since we've been established in the 90s. So it's been a really it's a neat concept. You just got to make sure you have the right amount of weight. Too much can throw you off, and not enough can throw you off. So you got to be careful when you go to add that in there. Let's see what we got here. Yeehaw. I want to get back. I saw Matt. I figured Matt. Here we go, Matt. Look at that. Matt got into a 77 on a trough and then a 69. Matt, yeah, I need to take lessons from you, man. It's absolutely killing me. I love it. Matt is such a good guy, and he's such a good golfer. I can just see these unassuming people coming around and him just fleecing them for all this money. It's good for you, man. Good for you. All right. Nolan's asking the question again. Is there graphite you would recommend for someone who plays steel in the 3-wood? Don't have the same feeling in my hands lately when I play with graphite. Well, so graphite is a shock absorber, and it is made to deaden the feel. That's across the board. That is the nature of graphite. Now, if you're looking for weight and weight alone, there's probably no like 110 gram shaft or whatever out there for that. And I wouldn't know why you would want that. I've never really understood the idea of, graphite has so many more variables in it. What I mean by that is the ability to make different profiles, make different weights, and for different golfers, where steel has been for the longest point relegated to just a few. And now the steel technology is starting to come around, but they'll never get as low as graphite. And just on the other hand, graphite, making a 125 gram graphite shaft, unless your hands are just absolutely stinging and you're the strong, you're a 28-year-old guy with arthritis, chances are you probably don't need that. But they do make them, and there are people that do play them. And not to say it's wrong for them, but it's just on the average from what I see. So if you're looking for steel and it's purely weight, they do make like an 80 grammer. That's the one I'm aware of. That's as high. And then again, it depends on how aggressive you are as well, because there are different profiles. But Acra would be certainly there, and I believe you'll find them in some True Temper product as well. All right. All right. Chris Newton, never used forged irons before. I have a set of burner 2.0s. What would you recommend for a first-time forged iron? Thank you, Chris, for the positive note. Forged. It depends on burner 2.0s are fairly forgiving club. If you want to stay in that category of forgiving forged irons, right? Forgiving forged irons, there's any of the three companies. Callaway makes a player's forged club. The Epic is forged, but is very pricey, but it does work. Mizuno is known for its forged clubs, and they have if you're looking now, let's we're up in our game. We're a better ball striker. This is where we're going, right? They have a JPX forged, which is now it'll be significantly it'll be a little different to hit than a burner, but you could go there. New Level, if you look, and this is a good intro. New Level just introduced just 2 days ago new set of irons, the PF line, and they have a blade, a player's cavity, and a more forgiving cavity, and they're all forged. And the 3, I think, is the one that's the most forgiving. Looks to be pretty tight. It looks very, very nice. I'd say give them a look, see, and see what happens. Wait a minute. It says, what do you think of the Dual Ball? I think it's a great golf ball, particularly the Dual Plus. I've hit the Dual Plus. The Dual Plus is very nice. Something certainly to take it out. Yep, and I hope that they do. And there he is from Sweden. So how did the fitting go, man? With that lady, did she do okay for you? Once you got her set up with the Loft and Lies? I hope that worked out, especially if she's a good player. Women get ripped off in the game of golf, man. We need to take care of them as far as getting get stuff underneath of them. All right, Richard, thank you. Play the 400, good one. Kurokage Silver. If I upgrade to the Maverick, what would be the equivalent shaft? From the UK. Brother, you got to be careful over there. I guess they got you inside. Whoo. But an average from the Kurokage. So the stock shafts that they have currently, they have Riptides, USTs, and Rogues, or the Rogue Silvers are back. And I would go with the Riptide, right? The Riptide. And they have different weight categories. So if they have a 50 and a 60, and so be careful of the weight category that you get. But I think that one would be the one. And it's a good shaft too. It really is. It's working pretty good. D, what type of drill bit do you use to bore out your houses from 355? Do you use cobalt? Well, I do not use a drill. I use a reamer. Okay. And you're asking me the right question. 2 flute, 3 flute, that kind of thing. Mine is a 3 flute bit, right? A 3 flute head. And it's not straight, it's spiral wound. I use a spiral round. And what I use is a 0.378 or 0.379. And I get them from MCS. And then I use those quite regularly. But those are the ones I use. And why that big? Because although it's a 370 shaft, the hosel is 380. And that's in order for you to be able to put that thin line of glue all the way around. So you got to have room. All right, what we got here? Boy, we're rolling. Thank you guys for asking all these questions. This is awesome. What buffing wheels do you use in your shop? I picked up an 8-inch grinder and we'll add multi-tool to one side, buffing wheel on the other. Also have an 8-inch dual buffing wheel. So if you have all those wheels, you have at least 3 different abilities now. On the one that's on my multi-tool, I have it's a bound. I just had the name in my head. It looks like bound up hay is what it looks like. And I use black rouge on that, and that's purely to do high polish, right? Hard bristle, high, and kind of the black rouge to get a high polish. Generates a lot of heat, but it works really well. The other one I used unstitched buffing wheels on one, and I make it about as wide as I can that it'll take. And that's the one I use to finish ferrules. And then another one I use a nylon, and I give it the wavy wheel so it does like this. And that creates a satin, and it's a red. Yeah, it's a red nylon, and the nylons are different grit, so the red is what you're looking for. Well, I'm getting down here. Let's see. Just switched iron shafts from a 5.0 flighted to X100s. The swing speed's around 120. Holy smokes. So major change in distances. You ought to see a major change in control. That's for sure. Because the 120, you're right in that top end of the X. If you're smoother, yeah, you're gonna see a feel difference. And if it makes you hit better, then yeah, because the 5.0, and again, it depends on when you did the flighted. If that was that, at best, that's stiff, and at worst, that's what they would call firm regular. So yeah, if you're swinging around that, at least the X Flex, those X100s will stay with you. Dave, how do you measure shaft length if there's an adapter on it? Well, I measure when there's an adapter on it. I normally put it in the head, and then I measure the whole club length. That's what I do. Now, on average, the club length, when you put it in there, is about 1.5 inches shorter than the actual club length. That seems to be true in at least 3 of the OEMs. So if you're looking for 50 or 45.5, you would want to cut it to 44.5 and then shove it in the head. And that's with the adapter on. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. If I get a good fit for iron shafts, will they transfer from head to head without issue for the most part when it might be an issue? Yeah, for the most part, unless there's something radical about the head design that they're going in. Like, for instance, the hosel depth insertion on a Cobra is not nearly as deep as it would be on a Titleist or a Callaway or even a Mizuno or those. So they have different insertion depths, and you got to pay attention to that part. Once you've made up for that, then yeah, you should be good to go. Indiana in the house. Dude, my wife and I met in Logansport, Indiana. So, hey, keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. Hey, there you go. So hopefully it works out for you. All right. Can you determine swing weight of a club before assembly by weighing the components separately? As a matter of fact, you can. There are, if you look on the internet and they have applications. They got these calculators that are right there for you. Will it be dead solid on? Probably not, but it will be very, very close, enough that you probably wouldn't notice. So yeah, and that's what you see me do when I do my assemblies. When I do my assembling, I am always measuring to make sure I have the heads, that they have a space between them. They're not all the same. That the shafts weigh very close to the same. The grips weigh very close to the same. Because then you're adding ferrules and glue and grip tape, and all those little bits you can trick it maybe a swing weight one way or the other, but as long as the 3 main components are good to go, you're in pretty good shape. There you go. There you go. Well, that's the way to go. Just sit it out there and kind of just pretend like you're making club and see. Wilbur Browser, which way is the best to err on a driver shaft? Flex, softer, or stiffer? Huh. It would be my opinion softer. There would be others that would tell you just the opposite. Why do I say softer? Because, and we're just talking little bits, right? If you're going to say I need an X flex and I've got a lady shaft, or go up to 3X, no, it's not what that means. The softer shaft transmits a little bit better feel, gives you a little bit better response, gives you a little bit, maybe even a little bit better club head speed, maybe, right? And without sacrificing directional control. Now you get up into stiffer shafts, and directional control becomes a premium, but height and feel tend to go away. So there's your trade-off. Matt, what is it? Is there a lot of offset in those Cleveland hybrid irons? Yes. Well, in some of them, I think they have a progressive offset. And can the lie be bent easily? I would have to say, very. Are they bendable? Yeah. How much? Not very much, because the hollow back body on them is pretty hard. And so, but yeah, they can be done. Whoops, went a little too far. Let's see where we're at here. We got another one. What's your turnaround and loft to lie adjustments on a set of irons? Well, if you bring them back to the beginning of in most cases, if I'm not doing anything, you drop them off right there. You stand outside, and I do it right then and there. Uh, but if you're uh, if we're really busy, worst case scenario, it's from beginning of day to the end of the day, or at the end of the day to the beginning of the next day. But really quick. What Odyssey line is my favorite? Well, right now, my so there's the Odyssey has Toulon, which is the premium line. It's milled and it's very very precise, but it also has a payment. It costs a lot of simoleons. So the next one would be the Stroke Lab or the regular Odyssey line, and within that they have the black. I tend to like that one. It's very simple. It's black, white stripes, done, and it has the same shafts and everything as all the other ones. So why? Then there's the ERC line. What I call it the ERC line. It's the one with the 3 lines on it. If you're having somebody that's truly struggling with alignment, give them the ERC ball and give them the ERC putter, and watch it tune itself in. It's funny how it works, and it's not because it's showing you the path that you need to be. That's always something to work on. But what happens is, if you're like this, it shows you almost immediately, and it lines you up, and that's the cool part. Okay. Huge fan. Curious how many of your customers are leaning their way instead of major OEM. Well, uh, being how I carry major OEM and then some, we'll call them smaller companies. Well, though I do have Wishon, it kind of goes in cycles, right? It goes in cycles, but for the most part, people tend towards the marketing, right? Uh, what happens is, and the thing with New Level when we first brought them on was is that they were a very new company, and they were afraid that they were going to be gone next year. Well, that's just not the case, and they're and it's a really good concern for somebody who's looking to hold on to the iron for a very very for the foreseeable future. And so far Eric has done a bang up job. He's doing very very well, and to the point he's got those 3 new irons coming out, so he's doing something right. And I would say, uh, but once they hit them, and they're like, oh, okay, this thing works, and then it's a consideration: do I want that in my bag? And that's where you can go from that. Dustin's killing it. What's up, bud? Oh, I have another question. I have an old TaylorMade Fire Soul 3 with the bubble shaft. Ugh. Original grip. Want to get a new grip. Will a norm grip work? No. It is a big butt shaft, and it takes a. Robin's over there. Mrs. McGolf's going, she could do it. She could do it. Uh, it'd have to be you may or may not be able to get away with like maybe a Tour Velvet. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive considering it has that thing on the back. So a Tour Velvet might get it, but man, you got to work it pretty hard. And I don't think a standard might get it, but it may. But the bubble shaft has the bubble grip. Now last week we were just talking about it with those wind wraps that you can wrap around it and then put a cap on it. It's pretty cool. Peter, what do you think about Mura irons? Peter, I think I know you. The Mura irons were the Mag Daddies out there until PXG came along. If you the forging, the hands of God thing is for his forging process. Now, I will say, everybody I've ever talked to in the build process has never, ever, ever, never, ever once complained about Loft and Lies being dead on. Not ever. And that's a great thing. And that In fact, people have sent me sets to build, and that it's true. The weights are dead on. The loft and lies are dead on. And then if you're just making them, you shove in shafts and you're good to go. However, in most cases, I'm reaming, and the hosels are very, very hard, and I think it has to do with the spin milling. But as far as the quality of the build, they're very, very top notch. Now, as far as one thing that they've been lost on is the modern lofts, right? Uh, when it really comes right down to it, distance sells. And although that is Mura has become for a traditionalist now as opposed to basically an elite player. But so if they were to come out with their classic designs with more traditional lofts, I think they would be a player in the community again for sure. The Mizuno Ball. Well, I only have they've only had one. I've given them out. I've had some 2 ball packs and I've given them out, and one customer came back and said that it hit great, felt good, and flew short. And I have no idea that could mean a million different things. But there's 2 different kinds out there, and one just hits and it sounds just great, and the other one, in my opinion, sounds a bit plasticky when it hits. I'm not sure if that's even a good term. It just has, let's say, it just has a different sound, and it goes. So I haven't had them out on the course. I have a couple of 2 ball packs waiting for me to take it to the course, and let's just say I'm going to reserve my right on that when I finally am able to get out. What would be equivalent of Graphite Design D5, the orange one, on other inexpensive shafts? I would probably go, the one that comes to mind, and again, is the Acura I-Series Tours in the 90s. They're probably pretty close. Does a Dremel have any place in club making? You better believe it does. Uh, if you need to, there are some ferrules that need to be hollowed out a little bit more especially when you go from taper tip to parallel. They do have those. If you need to precisely remove a collar or something along that lines, if you need to remove a burr that's on the inside of a hosel, and you don't have any of the big gear, if you needed to get into the crevices of the cavity backs and polish them out or dig stuff out, yeah. So there's out there. I've got one, and they have the little cutting discs. Little cutting discs. I had one. I had my wheel break, and it was the actual wheel, not the actual machine. The wheel broke, and I had to get some clubs done. And I'm digging around, and I actually ended up cutting shafts with that cutter, and it worked like a champ. So yeah, there's a place for it. Well, you know what? That is the old saying, right, Richard? Are custom clubs like suits? Yes, they truly are. But I think it has a lot to do with the will they work for that at that time of the measurement? If I lose weight, do I need a new fitting? Well, what you could do is you could see, right, the I what would normally change. What normally changes on this when people lose a lot of weight. Let's just say, and normally I've seen it with people who've had cancer treatments and they've lost a lot of weight, but they've also lost a lot of strength, and so they're working their strength up. But now they're thinner, their hands are closer to the ball, and so what changes? Well, from that particular point, what I would look at is maybe a loft and lie, right? If you're now, let's say you're losing weight just for the sake of losing weight, and you do get thinner, and your hands do get closer. What would happen is that maybe you just need a loft and lie change because your hands aren't going to get any bigger, anything like that. You may gain a little swing speed. So if you're on a cusp and you need to go up, maybe, but I would start with a loft and lie change. And if that didn't do it, then I would go into a fitting. But we're talking a lot, right? If you drop in 20 pounds or whatever, you're probably going to it's just going to feel better, right? It's just going to feel better. Dang it, I did again. Where we at? Here we go. Kurt's back. We'll have to see, Kurt. In a lot of cases, I'm not there to get a putter head. Um, in order for somebody, I haven't done that many as of late, only because most of my putters come with shafts already in them. But maybe we can con Maltby into something because some of that stuff's pretty cool. Oh, that is a good drive, dude. If you call, if you're serious about getting it, if you're just wanting them done, just give us a call and set up a time, and that way we're waiting on you, and we get you done, and then you can turn around and you can go right back. When adding grips, is using air compressor better? Well, we talked about that last week too. So it depends. If you have the gear and you have the talent, can it go on? Yeah, have at it, because you can go. The pro and the con here. The pro is once you set it, it's on. You can go play golf. No waiting to dry. Now the con is you need all the gear, and that's in difference of having a grip solvent, putting it on, sliding it, and having it, because you just need a pan or a catch trough of some variety and a vise, and on you go. And you still need the vise for putting it on with an air compressor. So it can go either way. Is there a shaft you like for use of one length clubs with sterling heads? Not really. I've just happened to be a KBS guy and an Acra guy for the most part, and I tend to use those. But it's it for me, it's if whatever works with the person. The Sterlings are parallel tips, so you're going to need parallel stuff. Way to go, Rob. The one wide is actually a very, very nice one. Is it worth to refurbish a set of Ping Eye 2s, and if so, what shafts would you recommend? Kevin, that's going to be refurbishing a set of Ping Eye 2s. There are people, like I said, they love that club. And if you get them done correctly, then yeah, they can be gamers again. But the shafts truly depending on your swing, your style, what it is that you've got going on. And they are taper tipped heads, and so you have to be very careful. If you do tend to go to graphite, you got to be very careful there. If you're going into steel right now, me and steel is just KBS and the whatever which one. There you go. 902s. That's his number one seller, man. He's doing a very, very good job with those. And you're right. He's keeping his stuff afloat. He's doing very, very well. There you go. Whoever's asking about the big butt grip, there it is. Nolan, thank you. Here we go. Golf stuff. Why do you think the R&A kept the Ryder Cup but canceled the Open? The Ryder Cup is more enthusiastic than the Open and relies more on the fans. It just doesn't make sense. When it comes to the R&A, they have well, again, they're the keepers of tradition for sure, and you've got to wonder what their thinking is. Maybe it's they believe it's their shot at getting the title back, and that was more important than running the Open. I don't know. The only time I can even think of, if you go back in the history of the Open, when you talk about St. Andrews, but I don't know, was it during the World War, and then in the very concept at the beginning, and King James, when he took it off so he could, that whenever there was a war they stopped it, so it's like that. But there you go. Why? I don't know. Maybe they got something going on with the USGA in order to make that happen. Uh, and because the golf tournaments over here are going to suffer as well. No, not really. The MMCs, yes, they are a bit stronger, but they can certainly be bent. That was the whole premise of that, was that they're made to combo set with their blades, which are what you would call traditional lofts, and yeah, you can bend them back, no problem. There you go. Double wide. That's the one. Let's see. Tacti Chili found a about a 1.5 ounce plug in an MP while reshafting. They will tell you that I've asked this question before, and they will not say it's for swing weighting and it's vibration reduction. I would weigh the head, and if the head is very very light, and it could be. See, Mizuno has two layers of hands. They have a A line and B line. One's lighter, one's heavier. They could have put that in, and it was on a lighter shaft. So, personally, I would if it's junky, I would look at an equivalent weight and put it back in new. But there's always that possibility. Ugh. Gotta go back here again. Oh, there we go. Nolan's got one. Insurance policies. Okay. Can you recommend some alternative options, preferably less expensive, for iron shafts or someone fit Project LZs? 5.5s. Well, you might look at the XP95s and just go into an S Flex. You might look at. I'm trying to think. If you really want to go very less expensive, you might go into the FSTs and go into their pro models. That probably do it. Thank you, sir. I have a lefty friend who wants a grass cutter wedge. Would you add extra tip weight? Fit it with a special wedge shaft, knockdown shaft, or go along with his iron shaft? If he's looking to really make it into a wedge, I would go with a wedge shaft. If it's going to be a full swing club for some reason, I don't know, full swing club, then I would use the iron. Okay. Guys, we are rolling. I appreciate all these questions. This is great. It keeps my mind rolling. Is there also any bit of counterbalancing to add mass but reduce the swing weight? Yeah, there is. Do it all the time. But it's not for everybody. There's guys that are smoother tend to like the weight in their hands when they bring it back, right? And they can feel that, and it works, and it actually adds a little club head speed. In the day, the long drivers used to do it all the time. They put more in order to help increase club head speed. Jack Nicklaus did it, and they'd put a wooden plug in, and he'd drill a hole and put liquid lead in it, and so he did it, and he was a bomber. Just look at how he did it. So yeah, there is stuff to do. There is stuff to that. And now the counterbalance shafts, like that Nemesis I showed you, all the way there. So there you go. All righty. So here we go. Huh? Renee, we're getting to you. As soon as I get done with Dustin, you're next. Sorry, I have another question. TaylorMade white smoke putter's losing some of its powder on the putter. Repowder coat it. I mean, that's the easiest answer for me to give you, bud. You can give it a little touch up white just if you're just looking to touch it up, just touch up white, get it there. If not, it's like one of those things. It's once it's got a chip, it's chipped forever, and you strip it down, you got to repowder coat it or have it repainted. Oh, Dustin. All righty, Dumbucker. You are more than welcome, sir. Let's see. How far down is she?
622.
Okay, I'm almost there. Just got done gluing a Titleist 3-wood to a pre-launch red. I do not have the proper saw. Do you have any recommendations? Well, I did a video on how to cut shafts. If you can, go to the local Home Depot or whatever it is you've got, Menards or Lowe's or whatever, and get a rod saw. It's a rod saw blade, and it fits into a hacksaw frame. So and the rod saw is not very expensive. It's a couple of bucks. and the hacksaw frame could be a couple of bucks. You could have as low as maybe $5 to $7 in this tool and be able to do it, and it'll cut through the graphite like nobody's business. And then when you don't want it, you can just put the rod saw up and go get you a regular blade. So you'd be off to that. All right. We are getting there, Renee. I'm 3 away. When you spine a line and mark the club at 12 o'clock, when you place the head on, is the toe pointing up at 12? Yes. And if you go back to the channel, I talk on some of the building clubs that I do that and why. And it's because when I started, you couldn't, by aligning the line, it was almost illegal. It was like, there's nothing stock in a stock car. And that's what we did. Well, as we did more experiments, we found the toe bends down, put the spine line, it makes it very much more consistent. Now, there are people that talk about putting it towards the target, after the target for a kick point. And yeah, I see that there's some merit to it, but how much? I was more into the consistency part, more as far as that goes. All right, here we go. Boom. Renee, thank you. Thank you for waiting, if you're still there. How long does it take for an iron driver fitting at your shop? An iron fitting and a driver fitting is an hour and a half a piece. All right, an hour and a half a piece. Now, the reason being is we look at your golf clubs, we spec them out, and then while you're filling out basically your interview form, and then we go over the fitting process. And so the most part, about 30 minutes of it is introduction and checking out your gear. And then when we go and we hit, and there's a specific way that we go through the process to make it easy for you to understand and for me to follow. and so that's why we do it like we do it. And sometimes it's shorter and sometimes it's longer, but on the average between an hour and 15, hour and a half. And the same thing goes with the driver. Now, the driver will probably go a little bit faster because you've already heard me in the spiel, but as a whole, there you go. And if you need to take a rest, we can do that as well. But yeah, if you're interested, give us a call. Evan Adams. Oh, there we go. Boy, that's saying something. And the Phenom, that was a board. If you just took an inch off, an inch is basically 6 swing weight points. So if you're putting it into the tip, you're talking about 12 grams, right in about that area. Why do TaylorMade use a 355 gram for their stock putter weight? Any significance to the magic number 355? No, I think that has more to do with preferred design. The newer putters are heavier, to be sure. They all started out around 240, 250 and have slowly climbed up 275, 3.25, 350, and 355 is probably a number they've used so that they don't look like anybody else. And that's what most of them do. It's just not TaylorMade, it's everybody. We have our weight, right? And they could come out and say, we've done all this testing and we've found that most of our tour pros dig 355 more than anybody else, and that's the reason why we're staying where they're staying. And the same thing could be said at another company's tour pros. Do you like 340? Right? That's another number. So you've got to just keep in mind. So if you swing it and you like it, hey. But I would I do back weighting on a lot of putters, and a lot of them, and that controls the shake and the pullback. So keep that in mind as well. Here's some 710 AP2s. Found a little surprise. Had tips of plastic plugs in the end and titanium powder. All what? On the bottom of the housers all the way. So that's different. I know the plugs, the red plug's not a surprise. That's a common. Sometimes you'll find that they do that in a lot of cases. Now the powder, that's new. I've not heard of Titleist ever doing that one. Do you ever think driver technology do you think it's maxed out? You know what? Every time I think that they do, they come up with something else. Now, Driver technology is kind of a unique thing in that, is it a technology for you? Right? They could every year a company's going to come out saying that they beat last year and they did better than last year and they went further than last year, more control than last year. And if they go one tenth of 1%, they're not lying. But is it a market appreciable number for you guys, right? Or even for me for that matter. And you've got to really pay attention to that. So for guys that have been fit and have got really nice drivers and nothing's changed, I mean, you could easily look out 4 years out there before even thinking about needing another one. But there could be something that they designed. They've come out with this new greatest thing, and it works for you better than your buddy. Well, then there you go, right? You've got the thing for you. And should they focus on short game? Absolutely, right? Statistically, it's showing inside 150 yards, 50% of golf is played. We as golfers need to concentrate more on short game for that very thing. Putters, wedges, all the way up into the 8-iron, 7, 8-iron, depending on the person, and just going out there and just focusing on that. There are so many stories. How many stories have you ever heard or seen out there where a really old guy that has to take a cane out there and just 150, 150, 150, and just absolutely slays these young guys that are beating the ball 300, right? How many? They're out there, every one of those. And that's because that dude's laser accurate in the short game, right? Now, Arcos Golf, there's a lot of them at Game Golf, Arcos Golf. That is a really great, if you're looking to try and manage your game, it is a great tool to find that out. It's either that, and it's easy instead of having to write down all your stuff. There's some guys out there just absolutely loved it, right? It's a great little tool for how to get better. So there you go. But, don't get too wrapped up in the numbers. Just make sure, because you got to make sure you hit the shot as well. Peering is a way of balancing the shaft, right? It's a computer-based analysis that says this is the best way that goes in the shaft. They put a line on it, you put your head on it, and away you go. But it's a computer version of what I do analog-wise. You're welcome, Renee, and thank you for asking the question. Will, what's the most important factor you look at when choosing shaft for a customer aside from swing speed? Weight. By far and away, weight. Weight, then and swing speed, is one of many factors for picking flex. There's transition, there's release, right? There's and then swing speed. There are just a couple. I mentioned a few, but weight is a big deal. When frequent matching a set, would you have all the same 6-7 pitch, or do 7 through pitch and 6.7, or something totally different? If I'm frequency matching a set, Justin, they're all the same. 3 through the pitch, boom. 3 through pitch. If I want 5-0, they're all 5-0, give or take, just a little bit. And that's just error on the machine and me both. But I would not go like, oh, this frequency is this frequency is that frequency. That's kind of a minor league flighting. I can see the idea in it. However, and sometimes that person may desire that, but as a whole, same. All right. Dublin, Ireland, Sean Tracy. Way to go, Dublin. I would love to get back there. That place was awesome. Thanks for your help with the clubs. Maybe a lot of my death, but love the whole project. Oh, Sean, cool. Did you get, hopefully the glue worked the second time around. But I'm glad. And one day I will get back there. Mike, one more question. Starting club repair as a hobby in my garage. What would you say is the most important tool you had when you first started out? Well, it's funny. My most important tool was my vise. and the benches that they went on, right? The solid, you got to have a solid foundation. Once you have a solid foundation, then I would start with the simpler most convenient, simpler convenience, not necessarily the right word. Doing gripping, however you want to do gripping, right? You can use, for instance, we use the vise with a speed clamp and a catch trough, and it falls into a bucket, or even what you see behind me over here is another one that Mrs. McGolf is just completely tearing up, and she's putting on all kinds of grips. And that just puts you right into the game right away. Now that's a repair, right? If you're concentrating on repair, then a shaft puller might be one as well, and then a cutting machine, and then it just can keep going. But the vise holds a lot of portable equipment, and you can put it in there, and you can pound on it. You can do all kinds of things. But then I would look at what it is that you want to do, that you want to get done, whether it be gripping, shafting, building, flex matching, or or doing bend profiles, polishing, finishing, that kind of stuff. Each one has its place, and you figure out what you want to do, because that's kind of what we did. I started out with a couple easy repairs, and for the first 2, 3, 4 years, everything I did went exactly right back into the shop, and I bought a new tool. When it ran up to Golf Works, when they'd have a sale, and pick something out. I made it into their, what they called, the barn back in the day, and would pick up some used stuff. And this, a lot of these things is, always looked at that buy one and never go back kind of concept. And so far it's treated me well. Mr. Kevin, going back to the Ping I2s, okie dokie. They don't make the ZZ shaft anymore. Do you think a Dynamic Gold SL would be comparable? Probably pretty close. I mean, right off the top of my head, it would be right there. It depends on what you want for the weight. Turns out I probably have a set of ZZs in my back in here. I'd have to go look. I know I've got a set of older Ping shafts. I don't know if they're the ZZs or the other ones. But yeah, the Dynamics. I'd look at those. Do you honestly think your opinion large OEMs such as TaylorMade, Callaway, Spinal Line frequency match all their mess? No, they do not. I know they don't. None of them do, and that's because they don't believe it doesn't add to the quality of the golf club. They will tell you that they've got documentation that it doesn't make a difference if they do or if they don't, and so because it doesn't, they won't. And it also has to do with time. It takes a lot of time, and when you're building tens of thousands of golf clubs, time's money. And so if they can prove that it doesn't do anything and they make a quality product, then they don't have to. All right, last one, guys, and then I gotta go. I went 10 over. I'm getting the one of these from the wife. How coarse does the tip of shaft have to be for the epoxy to hold? 80 grit sandpaper. No, 80 is pretty good right there. I use about 100, but not only on the tip, but you got to get into the hosel. Take that same sandpaper, put it maybe on a smaller screwdriver or on a drill bit, or just roll it up and just get in there and work it in there. And you get in there. I use or here's another one. You could go to the local hardware store and get one of those a metal pipe cleaner when you're doing copper tubing, and just cut off the handle, put it in your drill, and just take it in and out. That should work pretty good. All right. All right, I got two more, and then we got to get done. I'm getting the eye rolling, but here we go. Best way to remove a steel shaft from a beryllium wedge? Yeah. Don't grind on the beryllium. Berylliosis sucks. It's the same. It's along the same thing as asbestosis. It gets in your lungs, and that's the reason why you see people won't do it. But short of that, heating it up, pulling it just like any other shaft will work just fine, or heating up and trying to twist it off. There's only two beryllium clubs I'm sure of, but in either case, they're both taper tip, and they're probably jammed in there pretty good. So you might have to heat it a little bit and then polish it down, because it will get dark. I have a hazardous green 350 tip. What Titleist adapter should I use? Yeah, 335 tip. The standard tip. The Titleist doesn't really get too big, too crazy when it comes to those. If it's pretty much their standard tip, they don't have like a 350 or even a 400. the 335, you should be good to go. All right, guys, that gets it all. Everybody else is there. So again, guys, thank you. I love talking around the world. It's just so much fun to be able to answer questions, that kind of stuff for you guys, and keep them in there. I think we're pretty much on the way going. Everybody's going back to work, at least in Ohio. We're going to start opening up by mid-month, so we probably have one more of these before we get out of our Corona grounding, so to speak. And so next week, if we decide we want to keep doing something like this, then we certainly can. You know, it's becoming a lot of fun, honestly. So anyway, if you see something like that, oh, I do have one more thing before we go. Yeah, I forgot the in my drawers part. I wanted to show you this. How about that? Valuables bag. I've got 10 of these. I've got 10 of these. So 10 of those. So here's what I want to do. Let's do something good for the world, okay? I am in deep with Patriot Day, right? Patriot Day. And Folds of Honor. That's the umbrella company. Folds of Honor, and they give scholarships for families of fallen veterans. Okay, families of fallen veterans, and I've got 10, and I'm sure I can dig up a few more. But what I want to do is let's do something good for the world. One of these that's just got junk on it. There we go. Crown Royal bag, and then you get a Folds of Honor, basically coin or divot tool or ball marker. All right. And what I'll do is we'll just start it off. There'll be your valuables. You throw it in there. So for $10, all right, $10. It's got to be in the U.S., guys. If it goes outside, I got to actually charge you for the shipping on it. For $10, it'll show up like this on your doorstep, and every bit of that is going to go to the Folds of Honor. And I got at least 10. So if you guys are interested, McGolf shop at roadrunner.com or clubmaker at mcgolf.net. We'll say again, McGolf shop at roadrunner.com or clubmaker@mcgolf.net. Work a PayPal thing out, and we'll send it out. All right. So again, thank you guys for listening, and let's see your scores go low.